In my previous video, I talked about how we can get free from some of the shame that's so often associated with being single. And I talked about the fact that the different stages you might go through throughout your life are not hierarchical, they're not a ladder to climb, but they're actually all linear and they're all of equal value to God. In this video, I want to look at how we can get faith for our singleness. And the breakthrough really happened for me a few years ago now when I was listening to a guy called Sam Allberry teach on the whole topic of singleness. Just as an aside, Sam has written this brilliant book, The 7 Myths About Singleness. I'd encourage you to get hold of this and read it because it will do you good. Anyway, as part of Sam's talk, he started to reference marriage. And he talked about the fact that marriage points to Jesus, that marriage actually points to and prophesies about a bigger and better wedding, a bigger and better marriage that is going to happen one day when we as the church, as the bride of Christ, get married to the ultimate bridegroom, Jesus. And then he started talking about singleness, and he talked about the fact that when you live your life as a single person, you are also pointing to Jesus. You are also prophesying about a greater truth, and that truth is this, that Jesus is all sufficient. He said when you live your life as a single person, pursuing Jesus, focusing on him, loving him, being content in him, you are declaring the truth to the people around you that he is enough, that Jesus really is the prize, that Jesus really is the great reward. When I heard Sam talk about that, I felt faith rise up in my heart because I thought to myself, wow, there is a purpose to my singleness. I started to think, wow, what a privilege that people are able to watch my life as a single woman in her 40s, pursuing Jesus, loving him, enjoying him, content in his presence, that they're able to look at my life and conclude, wow, Jesus must be enough. He really must be the answer. He really must be the prize. And faith began to bubble up in my heart for my singleness. And when we look at scripture, it's clear that the Apostle Paul also had faith for singleness. And we looked at this a little bit in our last video, but I want to read a little bit more from 1 Corinthians 7, starting in verse 32. And the Apostle Paul says this, I want you to be free from anxieties. The unmarried man is anxious about the things of the Lord, how to please the Lord. But the married man is anxious about worldly things, how to please his wife, and his interests are divided. And the unmarried or betrothed woman is anxious about the things of the Lord, how to be holy in body and spirit. But the married woman is anxious about worldly things, how to please her husband. What Paul writes here is true. As a single woman, I am free from many of the concerns and distractions that married people have to face and navigate. Because I'm single, and particularly because I don't have children, I have the privilege of being able to prioritise God, focus on him, pursue him, say yes to him without having to think through the implications of those decisions on anyone else. And there are so many things that are privileges about being single and the freedom that you can enjoy as a single person. But let me just identify a couple of things. Firstly, the whole area of calling. So I've got some married friends, and I know that one of them feels called to be in one nation and another one feels called to be in another nation. Now that is a difficult thing to navigate. You have to really wrestle that through together. It means someone has to wait for someone else to hear from God, and they have to work out together where are we actually meant to be. It's not straightforward, it's not simple. Now, as a single person, if God says to me, Wendy, I want you to move to Africa, then I can say yes, I can respond, I can do that, I can be obedient to God quickly without having to think through the implications on my husband or my kids. And that's incredibly freeing and an incredible privilege when it comes to being able to say yes to Jesus and respond to what he's asking us to do. Also in the whole area of money. When you get married, you have to work out how we're going to do our finances, how we're going to work this out. You might have different opinions to have to wrestle through. If you want to be generous, you have to work out who do we want to be generous to? How much should we be giving? Now, as a single person, if I feel like God says I want you to be generous to that person, I can just do it. I don't have to think through what implication will this have on my husband or my kids or anything like that. I can just say yes to God. Similarly, I can say yes to God when he asks me to take risks with my finance. So recently I've just gone down to 2 days a week from 4 days a week working for the church in response to lots of prophetic words. And that's risky financially because I don't know what's going to happen. I need to trust God to provide. But I can make that decision pretty quickly because I don't have to think through what impact is that going to have on my husband or my kids. You know, there are so many things that we get to enjoy as single people, so much freedom we get to enjoy because we are free from many of the concerns and distractions that married people have to navigate and face. And so I really want to encourage you, if you're single, I want to encourage you, get some time with Jesus and ask him to help you get into a place of faith for your singleness. The truth is, Jesus is the answer. He is the reward. He is the prize. He is more than enough for us. And we have the privilege as single people of living our lives in such a way that we point to him and we reveal that truth to the people around us. In my next video, I want to unpack the question, has marriage become an idol?